special teams leader, Fan Radio Network.
But you know what?
And KFAN.com. 1 minute and 56 seconds past the hour of 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time. We welcome you back to a midweek edition of the Bumper to Bumper program. My name's Dan Barreiro. I am the host of the program. We affectionately refer to as occasionally the Beast, sometimes the Aardvark, afternoon Aardvark, always hosted by the a-hole in the afternoon. That would be me. Guardsy's the producer of the program as well. I wish the news was better on the hockey front.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating. Well, it's dogs and cats living together right now. It's mass hysteria. The second guessing officially has begun. We make the goaltender change, and whether it had 80% to do with the Game 2 loss or 10% to do with the Game 2 loss, it inevitably becomes a talking point. It seems fairly clear that Russo Radio, a 502 guest today, has made his decision. He has gone as scorched earth as I remember Russo going 2 games into a series. The honeymoon is over. Whatever rapprochement had existed between Bill Guerin and Russo, I think it's over after what he wrote today.
Did you read the right story, or is it like yesterday where they tweeted out the wrong story?
Oh, I read it.
Yeah.
I read pretty much all of it, and it was pretty frontal and very, very direct. We'll talk about that with him, as I said, and more at 5:02. I'm not convinced. As tempting as it is, for those of us who kind of said, give the kid one more game, it's easy to say, told you so, because we all are in this business to look like geniuses. Let's be honest about it. It's all ego gratification. And when we have the chance, most of us will not rise above that.
No, we remind you.
We just won't.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to be honest about it. I mean, maybe I'll just speak for myself. I don't want to throw anybody else under the bus, but it's just true. So it's tempting, and I don't like, was it 2 goals and 2 shots?
I don't even think I'd gotten in my car yet.
And the third goal, I hated, like Russo did, that was allowed. But I don't want to just make this, for me, about that because, well, I mentioned off the top of the program, there's a reason they call them the special teams leader. I know who we don't have in this series, and I know that's affecting our defense, but the power play is supposed to be a weapon for a team. When you're on it, you're supposed to have an advantage that might lead to an extra goal or 2. We don't use it that way. We have not used it that way, and we didn't use it again that way yesterday, did we, last night?
Did not.
Did not. And we kind of... Now, in fairness to the special teams discussion, I think we have one shorthanded goal when we were on the penalty kill.
It was a nice moment with the Foligno brothers.
It actually was.
Yeah.
But and we got away with it, one could say, because we were so dominant 5-on-5 that it didn't matter in the Dallas series. But we ain't playing Dallas anymore. We ain't playing the Stars anymore. We're playing quite possibly the best team in hockey, correct? The Colorado Avs. I still don't know why it's Avs instead of Av. Did you ever get an explanation on that?
I did, but I'll be honest, I didn't look too much for it. I didn't spend too much time on it.
You weren't that interested?
No, maybe today I'll find it.
Well, I just need somebody from the hockey community to explain it to me. If you want to shorten it, just make it Av.
Isn't it just the grammar community? I don't know.
Is it the grammar community? But why? It's not. How is it a point of grammar?
I'm not sure.
If your nickname is an entity, an avalanche is a thing. It's a singular thing, correct?
Unless it's the hockey team. Then they make it plural.
Yeah, but then why don't you call them the Avalanches in the beginning?
It's a great question.
I don't know. Somebody will get to the bottom of it. It's the least of the Wild's problems right now. Let's face it. But in any case, I just think I can see it coming. Well, our 2 best defensive players, 1 forward, 1 defenseman, are out, and it's just not fair. It's setting up that way. I'm not saying there isn't some truth to it, but I think that's still a little bit too easy. When you're on the power play with other people, we have enough other people on the power play at least that we should be able to score more often than we do. And maybe that would have even taken the pressure off the goalie. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. But it's not. They're called special teams for a reason. They are specialties that in any sport matter. And you could say maybe in hockey more than any other sport, the special teams are important, right? Whether you're talking about the power play or the penalty kill. There ain't a lot of sports in which you might be at a one-man advantage or disadvantage, correct?
Right.
Are there any? Basketball can't happen unless it's a Gene Hackman movie, unless it's Hoosiers.
I was just talking with one of my kids about that it's the only sport that they'll take somebody out. I think maybe in lacrosse they do it.
Do they?
I think so.
What about soccer?
Soccer, I think if you get a red card, I don't think you can replace that guy.
Although red card's pretty rare, is it not?
Yes. So there's a couple, but out of the main sports, the big four, the core four, hockey's the one where they'll let you have a man or even two-man advantage for 2 to 4 to 5 minutes.
Yes.
It's a nice little feather to have if you can use it the right way.
And you have to take advantage of it at some point. And we haven't. Now this is series number 2. It's almost like we've written it off. And that's too easy because that is part of how you ascend and part of how you excel in the postseason. Look, series doesn't have to be over. We haven't played a home game yet. Who's to say where it's going? It doesn't look particularly promising at this point. I'm going to be very curious to find out whether we keep Gus Bus in net for game 3 or whether we go back to Volstead. Again, Russo, our 5 o'clock guest, indicates they're both annoyed right now. And that's never a good sign.
No.
In terms of their clipped-off answers, body language, etc.
Well, these goalies got to buck up a little bit.
Well, to a certain extent, it's the nature of it.
Yeah,
but
when you have 2, this is what happens.
Is it?
Yeah, well, I think so.
Yeah, well, but if it's not, then you lose anyway if for some reason they're pouting. And I don't know that they are, but that was the implication of the piece that I read. I cannot replace a red card. They play short the rest of the game.
There you go.
And the player that gets the red card can't play the next game, but the team doesn't play short the next game. That's one of our soccer experts.
Thank you, Nordo.
Suggesting. So all I'm trying to throw out there now, I'm trying to get ahead of the excuses because they're already being thrown out basically as this series isn't looking good. But we're going to mitigate the loss because it's Colorado. They're really good. And secondly, we're missing 2 really important players in Brodin and is it Eriksson Ek? Is that the other?
Yeah.
And neither is expected back, I don't think, in this series at all, right? It may even be longer than that for one of them.
Brodin, it sounds like for sure.
Yeah.
Eki, there's this open-ended, maybe, let's see, but I don't think it sounds good either.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't want it reduced to just the injuries. I don't even necessarily want it reduced to the goaltender. I want is it too much to ask that somewhere along the road that our special teams become special? It's been, let's face it, to varying degrees, an ongoing issue forever here.
That's what I was going to say. You mentioned the 2 series. I would say, how about the last decade?
Yes.
And even Russo tweeted about that today when given the numbers that the Wild special teams have been bad. I think his response was every year. It's something we talk about every year. How many different times have we talked about it in the season-ending press conference? I could probably find a Dean Evison.
Every year.
Maybe I'll find it and bump back with it. I mean, we brought in Adam Oates.
Mike Yo, anybody, any of the coaches, it's become an issue. Boudreaux was an issue.
Do we need to apologize to Zach Parise?
Maybe we do.
For bringing in his own power play specialist.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he was that desperate. Maybe that was the plea for help.
We should have listened to him.
That's possible. Let's get to the most pressing matter, writes Hendo out of Minneapolis. Can you get Larry Mandela guy on the air to explain his honest sports take yesterday? His fellow listeners are still concerned
should catch
for his
people up on
well-being.
that.
Yeah, we haven't had an explanation. Larry Mandela guy offered what seemed to be an earnest sports observation yesterday, and it just threw me off. I wasn't ready for it. And then I thought, well, maybe I'm missing a really good... Maybe he's so clever in his punchline that I've missed it.
He does that a lot in Dr. Dan's inbox, too.
He does.
I have to think about it. And there's some I don't read because I know it's too deep and too layered.
Why is it the Toronto Maple Leafs not the Maple Leaves.
Is it with an F?
It's with an F. It's Leafs. Why is it not Maple Leaves?
And there's so many of these.
Hockey, see, it's quirky. It's a quirky game. Who knew? You don't have to get analytical with everything, Dan. Just call them the Avs. I don't want to call them that. I want to call them the Av. I want to shorten it to, I want to start a revolution. The Av.
The only thing I'm seeing online is like a Reddit thread for when you say Av, why don't you spell it AVE?
As in avenue.
Like avenue, but you're spelling it like Av. No one's really tackled. I think you're the first to wonder.
Nobody's gonna confuse. If you bring it up in the context of after a hockey game, people are going to think you're talking about the avenue, or they're going to talk about the hockey team.
I don't know. I'm just saying what's online.
All right. Yeah, the Lanch. We have used Lanch before. That's very true. Throwing stones from a glass house, aren't you, Dan? Making fun of the Avs. Isn't your favorite hockey team named after a freaking adjective? Hashtag up 2-0. Hashtag go Avs go. That is from 651 guy. Huh. Interesting. Rest of the guest lineup today, pretty deep and distinguished. Kessler 5:30 in studio. I mentioned Russo at 5:02. Dr. Robbie Sika, formerly of the Wolves, although maybe he'll clarify if he's still got some official or unofficial connection with the team he used to work with. I think he had his fancy title was like VP.
Yeah, he's big time.
Big time.
Orono zone.
And we're going to chat with him about the Anthony Edwards recovery. He was involved in a video that made the rounds yesterday that you brought to my attention that sort of laid out the Anthony Edwards history. And it'll be a good opportunity to get into the ongoing issue of the never-ending paranoia about what? Any kind of calf injuries.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, for example, if Io is worried about his calf leading to an Achilles, my assumption was there was a chance he might not play at all this series. Well, it turns out now he's back.
He's back, baby.
Upgraded to available tonight. So what distinguishes, not all calf injuries, I assume, can be alike. He'll be able to answer all those kinds of questions because that is one of his specialties. 507 guy wants to know why it is the Minnesota Wild and not the Minnesota Mild. He would, if we don't come back and won game 2, he wouldn't be saying
No,
that.
he wouldn't be.
But we didn't win game 2, and now
we weren't particularly close.
We are down 2-0 coming back home. We got, is it 4 days off? 5.
We play Saturday, so whatever that math is.
Wagnerian opera in between, right? And what's the reason? It's arena availability, isn't it? Doesn't that have something to do with the scheduling?
Well, the Frost play here, I know tomorrow night, and then there's something else on Friday, I think.
Frost complaining about injuries?
I don't think so.
How about that suspended. Triple overtime game?
That's all they do.
1-0. They lost.
I know.
But it was, see, that's old school hockey. I love a low scoring game. So a triple overtime hockey game, 0-0. Yep. The only goal of the game wins it. I almost got in my car. And I think that game was in Montreal, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
Would have been
a hell of a drive. What do we got? Bonus?
TheFanandBigDeck.com. Yes, they want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest. First keyword of the afternoon is win. WIN. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword win.
Real quick, close circuit to Chad Abbott. It wasn't me.
The way that we were playing the game, obviously going in. And as Billy said, we, as a coaching staff, are extremely frustrated with, as you guys have just talked about, the same things that happened last year with our power play and our penalty kill. Yeah, we were much improved during the regular season, and we put a huge emphasis on that. When we got to the spot where we needed it to be better than it was obviously last year, and then obviously through the regular season, it was not.
Interesting soundbite that Guardsy has uncovered. I'll leave it to the audience to identify that voice, and if you're really intrepid, the year that particular observation was offered up by said coach. Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line is open at 64686. 949 guy writes, I'm sorry for being mean, you guys. Seriously, though, why can't we talk about being undisciplined? We have no problem dripping special teams. But why not say why we need our penalty kills so much? We get stupid penalties, especially Hartman. Didn't we have a spate of penalties in period 3?
Yeah. Some are bad luck, like Kaprizov just smoked the guy in the face.
Yeah.
Working for the puck.
Right.
But then there's others that are just bad.
Well, that's not a subject we've ignored over the period of time that this team has struggled in certainly postseason, and even a warning during the last series after the penalties early in that series as well against the Dallas Stars. So, yeah, it's all a part of it. I just am not ready to put it all on the goaltending. Even though, like I said, I probably would not have made the switch. I think it just becomes too easy to make it all about that. In all honesty, I leaned keeping Wallstedt, but Louis and I talked about this yesterday, and we both, and Louis was in favor of the change.
Yep.
But we both said the same thing. On the debate team, I can argue either side of it. I really can. It's not. I mean, we gave up 9 goals. Well, 8.
Yeah, if you factor in the empty netter.
That's it. That's a lot of goals. I mean, so ordinarily, just doing that one time in a playoff series against a really good team is often enough if you feel like you have another goaltender to make a switch. It's not that radical a change. I mean, when I've been down on radical changes in the past, it's when we've got a guy who in, what was it, the game 1 game, was it 23? A guy gets 55 saves and saves us in double overtime, and you go with Flower next game, right? Or even at the end of the season, one goaltender is going, that goes back to the Talbot days, right? So I think if I'm being fair, as easy as it is to want it to be, as tempting as it is to say, yeah, the whole goaltending vibe got screwed up. Terrible decision. Look what happened. They lost another game. I think if you're honest about it, all bets can be off after one performance like that, especially if you believe in your heart that you've had a guy go now, that was 7 straight games.
7 in a row. It makes sense.
So I just don't think it's out. It's defensive. It's definitely defensible. It's not outlandish, I would say. And I just think there's more going on right now. And if we had a better power play, maybe that tilts it too, back in the other direction where you're at least having a better chance to win. There is also the outside possibility that there's a reason they won, I think, regular season 9 more games than we did.
They're really good.
They're probably, they would, I mean, the odds makers had them as the favorite before the playoffs started, right, to win the cup.
The opponent has a say too. Mm-hmm. Like the opponent just straight up has a say, and the Wild are up against it. And I don't know if one decision is, obviously last night was not great. I mean, we mentioned 2 shots, 2 goals, and one of them, I don't even think one of them was on their power play. I don't even know if Joe O'Donnell had finished announcing the penalty and they'd already scored. It was that quick, right?
Yes.
After the Wild
that's correct.
Got back right away to tie it at 1-1, things were happening fast. Yeah, the Avs are really, really good. But everything is magnified. Decisions are magnified. Special teams are magnified. Yeah. That's why they put so much pressure on you. And the Wild, for whatever the reason, it just had not been up for it.
We also are aware the Wild's power play this regular season was better than it's been.
Yeah.
But it just hasn't.
Especially when Minnesota got here.
That's true. It just hasn't translated, obviously, at all to the postseason. Tony writes that the Buffalo Sabres are intentionally misspelled to ingratiate themselves to French Canadian fans, a directive from the owner when the team was formed. It's the French spelling of the word Sabres. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is R-E-S.
And the Toronto Maple Leafs are not named after the leaves. They are not. It's not at all related to a tree. I'll leave that there because there is more to the story, but I don't want to get too far behind schedule. But we will indeed. I think it's like a military unit, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think it's not related to the. So if we got into the issue of leaf,
I like it.
Leaf they're called the Maple Leafs rather than the Maple Leaves. I actually absolutely do not know.
We're learning so much.
We also have learned that Ayo Dosunmu has been upgraded to available tonight for the Wolves. I haven't heard any update on who starts, whether we go with the same formula we did for Game 1 in San Antonio, Davey, and keep Anthony Edwards off the bench. I think that would probably be the prudent thing to do, but I don't know how they decide how many minutes he might be available. The word going into Game 1 was 25 minutes. So I would say hang with that. I'm never going to want to concede a game, okay?
No.
On the road. Never.
Not in the playoffs.
But I will also say you got a game on the road already. So I want to do everything in my power to make sure Anthony Edwards is the best he can be for this entire series, now that it looks like there's a good chance that it is going to be a long series as well. Has anybody now determined that all 12 block shots should have been called goaltending for the... The number keeps going up. First it was 3.
Yeah.
Then it was 4.
Yeah.
Now I'm hearing 6 or 7.
But also, don't forget, we're not even talking about the goaltend. Some of them are fouls too.
That's
so
right.
I think if you take all 12, you can find something wrong
with all of them.
With all 12 of the Wemby blocks.
Well, I say this all the time. You got no credibility if you whine in a loss. The advantage the Wolves and Finchie have is they won the game. So I think it's easier to listen to him whining after a victory. It sounds better than when you do it after a setback.
It should have been a rout if you listen to Finchie. We should have won by 24 points. Think about if we got all the goaltends and we made just like 60% of our free throws. We would have been, Ant wouldn't have even had to play the fourth quarter.
It might have been double digits, is what it might have been, that's for sure. Here's Wally should have played last night, and penalties are killing us. Okay. Yeah, I get it. We'll get into that in more detail with Russo at 5:02. Much more on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Have you seen the results of the latest anonymous NBA players poll?
No.
It's going to drive you insane.
Oh, no.
It's fascinating. And it is the latest reminder that when it comes to evaluation of players, nobody is less qualified to do so than other players. It's astounding. Or, better way to put it is, players are less likely to rise above their own petty jealousies and biases than media members would in voting for various categories. There's some really good stuff for us to discuss there as well. How about some football? I didn't think we were, but Alec Lewis is back with one of those, you guessed it, what I learned or what I'm hearing stories.
Yeah.
This time having to do with the possibility, dare I call it probability, that the Vikings are on the verge of bringing back an old reliable, an old favorite, the triangle of authority. We'll have Alec Lewis explain when we return. Keep your drinks and your phones away from the equipment. That's a very important radio mantra, or mantras, I guess it would be plural in this case, that I have learned over the decades. Bumper to Bumper is the name of the program, the afternoon aardvark, hosted by me, the a-hole in the afternoon. We have an outstanding bevy of guests today. Kessler in studio at 5:30, Russo Radio 5:02, Dr. Robbie Sika, I should say, at 4:02, formerly of the Wolves, but still closely aligned with Anthony Edwards. And Alec Lewis, kind enough to join us now via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. I had intended originally to just take a break from any Vikings stuff, and then you send out one of these, I assume it's a directive from the top at The Athletic, what I'm hearing. And then it's, what I'm hearing about a possible trade, or what I'm hearing about the quarterback situation, or what I'm hearing in this case about the Vikings search for a new general manager, and it sucked me right in again. So is that the new bit that you have to start the headline with what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. It got you. So obviously the directive is paying off. But no, The Athletic goes in these phases where think years ago it was like this 3-pronged headline. You do 3 interesting words and then a colon and then a headline. So yeah, I just go with what they tell me. Guys like John and Russo and Gleeman, they can probably be more creative. I just don't have that, cachet yet, I would say.
All right, you did not use the term, even though you alluded to the very construction it represents. Once upon a time, the Vikings, I guess you could say, managerial approach at the top when it comes to, power centers was, I guess what we would say unofficially referred to and sometimes derisively referred to as the triangle of authority among 3 different people. This goes back obviously to the Spielman era. So you allude to it as among the possibilities. Did you throw it in there just to get people going, or did you throw it out there because you think, on the basis of what you've reported and heard to this, what you've heard, or you are hearing to this point, that it's actually a possibility?
Yeah, I definitely didn't throw it in there to frustrate people on a Wednesday where they're excited about what the Wolves are doing. More so for me, it was a device to, I think, try to explain where this thing could go from a search perspective. And I'll just say, from the top, around the league, there is a lot of intrigue in what the Vikings are going to do here. I think some of that intrigue is more of a question of, what is the timeline of this process that was delayed after the draft that is now a week plus removed from the draft and just beginning interviews. I think there are just people within the league that have a lot of questions about the timeline involved. But the best way that I knew how to describe where I think one path of this thing could go is where you do have multiple types of leaders, essentially, where Rob Brzezinski's expertise is unquestionable in terms of his negotiator cap, just wits about him. And then you'd have a personnel type of executive / leader, and those two would probably be working in tandem with a coaching staff that has garnered more sway in recent years. So that was the thought behind kind of referring to that previous structure that the Wolves had in place.
Is there, and you, I think, to explore this, one of the obvious concerns, and this did come up back in the Triangle days, I think, to a certain extent, is, all right, who breaks the ties? Who's in charge? How do we know who is the person that is responsible for everything? And do these sorts of, I guess you could say, does this sort of approach contribute to the notion that the answer is we don't know?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest, and it's everything. It is which staff reports to whom.
Yes.
It is which executive makes decision on whether to retain or bring in different staffers. It is, does the president of football operations type of person control the coaching staff? All of those questions, which frankly, we've asked a lot of these questions in recent years about where the Vikings organization is, they remain cloudy and murky. And so part of what is also interesting, both to me and people within the league, is how, I would say, non-transparent the Vikings ownership has been and is being on this specific process. And so I think the more kind of, murky nature in terms of where they land with this structure, the more questions I think they're going to have to answer from people internally and externally about how they believe this then leads to a result that obviously they have not been able to obtain in their 2 decades of ownership.
What is Turnkey ZRG?
Yeah, it's a search firm that is really widely used in college sports and in college athletics. It's been huge in the college football space, and the primary executive who is involved with this search and a lot of them in college football is a guy named Chad Shatlos. He participated, for example, in the hiring process that Indiana had with Curt Cignetti. He worked with Texas on Steve Sarkisian. believe he was one of the primary people involved in the Big 12 making a big commissioner hire, plucking an executive from Rock Nation, the agency. So they haven't worked as much within the NFL space. Atlanta did work with them. The Falcons did recently this past spring. And so, I mean, there are a lot of perspectives on what their role is here with this Viking search. I think there are some people within the league who think it's more of an interference to what the Vikings actually want to get done. I think other people believe that they can be an objective voice in ownership's ear when at a time where this organization probably doesn't have a lot of objective football voices in the front office.
How much concern? So it is pretty rare for pro teams to use this idea of a turnkey ZRG, for example. It is. Do we know why the Wilfs felt this was needed? That they didn't have enough trust and faith in their own ability to put some things together? Why do we need this when a lot of other NFL teams have made, I think you could say in some cases, successful hires, not always, without going through this part of the process?
It's a great question, and you're correct. It is not. It has not been crazy prevalent within the NFL space. I mean, first and foremost, it comes across when it's like you're working with the search firm, like you have a distinct strategy in place. So there is a perception part of that as well. I'd also say, I mean, the argument can definitely be made, and I can understand it, of as NFL owners, you're making this lead executive football hire, or you hope to be, once or twice a decade, potentially 3 times a decade. And so your expertise of who is within the space, the agents within the space, pales in comparison to those like the search firm Turnkey ZRG, which is working in the space day to day. But I mean, there are a lot of people who will, and people I've talked to, stakeholders involved, who are like, is this absolutely necessary? When a lot of the candidates are pretty widely known and easy to access.
Is there any reason to believe now? Of course, these are valuable jobs. They don't come around all the time, and to a certain extent, one assumes that if you have a chance to run an NFL football operation, you're going to take it because you don't know if you're going to have a second shot. There are some assets here, but is there any reason to believe that there might be some hesitation on the part of a couple of would-be candidates, let's say from outside the building, who might even have other options, not maybe now, the same year, but maybe down the road? They go, I like a lot of what they do. There's certainly the cupboard's not bare, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to run it because I keep hearing over and over and over again from media jackals like Alec Lewis and others that there is no organization in football where the head coach has more influence, and maybe even the defensive coordinator has more influence. So are these guys going to accept me being the boss in a way that could end up making me say, I'm not quite so sure? Is that going to enter into any of this, do you believe?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's already come up for me with agents in the coaching space who are very aware of the dynamic. It's part of their job, but as they are conferring with their clients on what the potential opportunities are, and specifically this opportunity, it's part of the just direct look at what this job offers. And I wrote this today, but it's like, the Vikings organization has a ton to like. Their ownership has made a lot of investments. The coaching staff is widely respected within the NFL. You have a superstar in Justin Jefferson, and all of that is valid and well and good. And when you're offering someone a title bump and a pay bump, typically they're going to be very willing to listen. But there are the dynamics that you just referenced, Dan, that are in the minds of people when it comes to how much sway will I really have? Will I be able to put my stamp on this front office or not? How much is this more just title and kind of optics as opposed to legitimate potential to instill a vision? Like, those are the questions that ownership's going to have to answer within this process. Those are questions that Andrew Miller, the COO, is going to have to answer. throughout this process. Those are questions that Turnkey is going to have to answer throughout this process. And the fact that it doesn't feel, at least in my conversations, like there is clarity within those answers, I think just creates more need for ownership to make it abundantly clear.
Towards the end of the piece, we're chatting with Alec Lewis, covers the NFL and the Vikings for The Athletic. You write the following. Chief Operating Officer Andrew Miller featured prominently in the Adolfo-Mensah hire and extension. The Vikings said they would support the process with a small internal advisory committee, and he figures to be in that group. On the football side, you write, the Vikings are in more of a pickle. Rob Brzezinski, typically participates in these decisions. His candidacy not only affects his sway, but also has the potential to cloud the judgment of other senior football officials. To me, it's obvious he can't be on, it's self-evident, he can't be on the committee if he's a candidate and wants to be a candidate. The objectivity problem is pretty clear. The question that intrigues me is, you mentioned O'Connell as, that his perspective should matter. I thought somebody already said the internal committee, or somebody already wrote that O'Connell's going to be on that committee. So I'll ask you the question, and maybe I am being naive, because I get, as you write, you got to have a good relationship between the head coach and whoever you hire, right? There's got to be some kind of meeting of the minds. But again, there's still part of me that says, well, wait a minute. If he's in the evaluation process again, how does that look to the guy who is interviewing for the job? I almost feel like I would rather have, is KOC going to be governed by the right things in terms of how he evaluates, or is he going to say, well, I think with this guy, I'm going to have a lot more sway than with this other guy? So you tell me what the rule is in the league in this situations like this. How much power do you want to grant the coach, even if he's grandfathered in and obviously continues to be the head coach of the team, when it comes to the hardcore personnel evaluation necessary?
Yeah, I think this conversation is one that, we talked about, and I think it's really important for where this team is and where this team wants to go. Typically, you read anything. You go back and read Bill Walsh books and just like history of the league and former executives. You're going to hear a lot of the same things. Of the coach is typically a short-term oriented thinker, and you often need the general manager to have a perspective on the long term. But you also need, the word that, or the phrase, whatever, the alignment is important. That doesn't always mean that they have to agree on everything, but when there are disagreements, they have to be worked through and respectfully from both sides. And that obviously did not exist with former GM Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. And getting to a place, regardless where that does exist, I think is the central challenge. I was saying this to somebody earlier today, like it is a fine needle to thread in a lot of ways with this situation. And threading needles is not the place you probably want to live in all the time in anything. And so I do think it's a really interesting conversation of how much sway should Kevin O'Connell have with this decision. If you don't, give him license to have a say, does the marriage eventually, is there less probability that it works? And if it's not him, then who internally is going to be the voice that ownership trusts on the football side? There's not a clear answer to that when you remove Rob Brzezinski from the equation.
Yeah, that is what makes it interesting. So my concern, and it might be ill-advised, you're around there every day. I'm obviously not. My concern is the country club mentality a little bit. It's how I used to refer to the Wolves in the Kevin McHale and Flip Saunders days, when they were routinely getting to the playoffs and then losing first round and seemed kind of just like stuck in mud. And they briefly brought in a coach outside the country club named Dwayne Casey, but almost as quickly as he was here, the handwriting was on the wall because he wasn't with these guys all the time. He was on the outside looking in. He wasn't going to have a chance. And in fact, midway through one of his seasons, in fact, they were a 500 team, they fired him and brought in another member of the country club, a guy named Randy Whitman. And it left me with the feeling that there are times, if you're all in it together, right, there is the concern that you're going to sort of reinforce each other because you've all got your places of power and you love it, and it's good to be in that position forever and ever. And you're not going to turn on each other because, hey, it's a country club. We're all, we all still got good jobs. And it makes me wonder whether this is a perfect situation in which what the Vikings need right now more than anything else is a voice from the outside. It doesn't even have to be a rip at Brzezinski, but a belief that is it gotten too cozy with, let's face it, good regular season results every other year, but no postseason success to speak of. And is it possible that what you need more than anything else is somebody who's got very few ties outside the country club, who comes in with a fresh look at pretty much everything? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I just, as you were talking, like, part of my mind just goes to, like, what Tim Connolly has been able to do. And obviously he was accomplished and
yes,
had been a GM and had experience. But I think, like, the injection of a different way of thinking has benefited that organization at a level that is, astronomical. And one of my fascinations in doing this job is, like, what are the best doing? How are the best thinking about it? What is leading to the maximum amount of success throughout the league? And I think if you look around and you look at an organization like Seattle that has done a great job, well, what have they done? They have a GM who has a lot of scouting connections and experience, but also a ton of feel and awareness and leadership to be able to really just direct the organization at an optimal level. You look at the Eagles and Howie Roseman, like, that is a GM-centric organization of a guy who is very sharp and knows how to seek different realms of thought. And so, like, those organizations and the structure they have is not it is not a coaching-driven operation. So I think the perspective that a lot of people have of bringing in somebody with a different level of experience and different exposure totally makes sense to me. I also can understand the perspective of, to navigate this specific situation, having someone like Rob Brzezinski, who understands the dynamics better than anybody else, gives it the best probability of being able to work in the long haul. So, I could see it both ways. I think me personally, I love outside thought that is very sharp and intelligent, but how they go about this, I don't think it's clear in terms of whether they will stay with the perspective that they've had internally or whether they will shift.
Maybe the one upside of using one of these committees, which I tend to not like, or search firms, is that they might be having they being the Wilfs especially, might be having a hard time because of their current, an ongoing relationship with Brzezinski, having a hard time saying, well, we love him, but we want to go, Rob, a different direction. Maybe that becomes easier if the guidance they get from, this particular operation that they've hired says, well, here's what we recommend. Ultimately, they have to make the call, but I'm wondering if that helps in that regard. I guess we will see. Timetable, any clue? You want to take any stab at that?
Yeah, I would say it sounds to me like the end of this week and early next week, a lot of these formal interviews will start to happen.
Okay.
Like, I don't think any of them have happened to this point. It's been a lot of filtering out process, feeling out. But I expect things to really ramp at the end of this week, early next week, and then we'll see about when they finalize that decision. But it feels like they are finally starting to get to the place where the process is truly beginning.
Good job on the story today. We appreciate the time, as always. We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Always. Thanks, guys.
Alec Lewis, The Athletic, on the coaching, I should say we have a coach. The GM search or president of football operations search or wherever this thing has to be. I'm a purist, man. I'm a traditionalist on this. I don't believe in triangles of authority. I think you can have, if you're at your best, the best organizations have lots of different people, right, who are good at their jobs. But you got to have somebody who brings them all together and says, I'm going to listen to you. We're going to get in the boardroom. We're going to talk about this stuff. But then ultimately, I have to make the call. And that, to me, is the way it needs to be. And I lean, without coming up with names, I lean with somebody outside this bubble because I do think that everybody needs to be challenged a little bit, including the head coach. And I think that's easier to do if you come in from the outside. So we'll see where that goes because it's obviously a very critical decision, and how you set up the pecking order is also an important part of that story, too. Top of the hour pause now. Remember, Russo in about an hour on the current state of your Minnesota Wild, now down 2-0. In addition, Kessler at 5:30. Wolves are back in action tonight. Of course, it's game number 2 in San Antonio, Davey. We've already confirmed that Ayo DeSumo is back and available to the Wolves tonight. Anthony Edwards will play tonight. We don't yet know, I don't believe, whether he will start. But a guy who knows Anthony well, worked with Anthony forever, is going to join us next with the medical expertise that we have been looking for on the Anthony Edwards saga this time around. And we'll have some other injury-related questions for him. Dr. Robbie Sika, kind enough to join us after a very short top-of-the-hour pause. Don't go away.